Guess I'm no longer the baby of the house.
Oh, that's debatable.
You guys are ridiculous.
I stepped outside the small artificial coffin that had confined me for hundreds of thousands of years and made my way down to see what humanity had been up to. As I walked, a variety of thoughts began to resurface.
Where am I? What happened?
While sleeping inside the chamber, I had remained in a continuous slumber. One of those deep, restful sleeps where you awaken the following morning feeling completely invigorated and ready to take on the day. Except this dream had lasted for an unimaginably long time. It took me a while to realize that I was no longer asleep and dreaming, but rather living in reality once again. A flood of memories slowly crept into my mind, one after another. They not only reminded me that everything I had experienced during all that time had been artificial, but also brought back memories of my life before any of it had happened.
Initiate capsule extraction protocol. Condition green.
I recalled the time I had served as the protector of a high-tier male god who had been fooling around with several mortal women. One day, his wife came to question me, asking whether I had seen him anywhere. Using my powers, I transformed him into a goddess, removing every trace of masculine aura he naturally projected. When she finally left, I restored him to his original form.
Yes, I understand. I'll go.
As compensation, he offered me the opportunity to create either a lover or children. They could be mortal if I chose to use a newborn baby as the foundation, or immortal if I used something taken from my own person. At first, I decided to create a single immortal child by offering either a lock of my trimmed hair or a few clipped fingernails. The high-tier god misunderstood my intentions. Instead of using one of those offerings, he somehow interpreted them as permission to create 2 children rather than 1. That was how Leonard and Jay came into existence. The 2 of them could not have been more different. Leonard had dark brown hair and blue eyes, while Jay had dark blonde hair and green eyes. I always believed he had simply divided my own physical traits between them, considering I had brown hair and hazel eyes, which I found out later on was the case. He had taken my DNA, split it in half, and allowed the genes to rearrange themselves however they pleased. The only problem was that he had created 2 fully grown men who possessed no memories and absolutely no understanding of the world around them. It was as though they had minds of infants trapped inside bodies that were taller and stronger than even my own. Leonard and Jay were, in essence, blank canvases. They knew nothing about the world, possessed no significant divine abilities of their own, and apart from their immortality, they were remarkably ordinary.
My favorite toy.
Their physical strength was exceptional by mortal standards, but it remained well within the realm of what a human body could theoretically achieve. During the previous age, they had quietly blended into humanity until they were eventually captured. Unfortunately, they were considered too weak to serve as viable power sources. When humanity imprisoned me as the last remaining divine energy source, Leonard and Jay were simply placed into capsules of their own and left in suspended animation. Now, after all this time, I found myself wondering what had become of them. I turned back toward the ancient laboratory, determined to search through the rubble and see whether their capsules still remained. Meanwhile, as I made my way toward the laboratory, I found myself recalling their early lives, carrying a small smile on my face. I had to teach them everything, from the most basic skills expected of a newborn to the responsibilities of a young adult. Fortunately, I had plenty of time to devote to them in between my various relationships and the occasional personal project. Over time, they learned to respect me. In the beginning, however, all they wanted to do was carry me around the house the way a child carries a favorite toy. Being manhandled by the 2 of them was frustrating enough, even worse when they began fighting over my attention. How was I supposed to teach manners to 2 men who were both taller and physically stronger than I was, that had yet to develop any sense of right or wrong? They could neither read nor write, nor did they understand the simplest concepts of personal hygiene such as shaving.
I think you need a timeout.
Overall, it was an incredibly complicated and often uncomfortable experience. I found myself taking care of 2 fully grown men who had absolutely no idea how to look after themselves. Learning to manage their emotion proved just as difficult. Anger, sorrow, fear. Every strong emotion seemed completely overwhelming to them. I lost count of how many apologies I had to offer the other ancient gods for Leonard's and Jay's behavior. They often said things that came across as disrespectful or insulting without having the slightest understanding of why. Eventually, as their minds caught up with their bodies, those incidents became increasingly rare. The other gods also learned not to pay too much attention to anything either of them said, knowing full well that no offense was ever intended. For a time, Leonard and Jay became known as the two gods who simply didn't know any better. Naturally, I was the one everyone blamed.
Are you gonna play with us now?
Once that phase of their lives finally passed, another challenge presented itself, getting them to leave the house. Both of them wanted to continue living with me and showed absolutely no interest in going out to discover the world on their own. I had hoped they would grab life by the horns and accomplish everything I never had. Instead, they chose to build their lives around me.
I would like to sleep alone tonight. What?
Occasionally, they allowed me to continue my recurring romantic relationships, while they enjoyed the occasional fling with mortal women, or, every now and then, a low-level goddess.
We'll give you some space.
Neither of them ever settled down. Perhaps they saw little point in building a life with either someone they knew they would inevitably outlive, or someone they didn't want to commit to for eternity. I never knew whether either of them was capable of having children. I never saw any future generation descend from them. That question lingered in the back of my mind.
We are never letting you forget us.
Did they simply have no desire to become fathers, or were they incapable of it? In truth, it never troubled me all that much. All I ever wanted was to see them happy with the lives they had been given. Every now and then, however, the line between parent and child would begin to blur. They would suddenly decide that they were the responsible adults and that I was the one in need of guidance. They would lecture me, tell me what I could or couldn't do, and occasionally even try to order me around. With time, I simply accepted it for what it was. Besides, they were happiest whenever we were together. Then again, perhaps I should have considered myself fortunate.
Did you already eat your vegetables and wash behind your ears?
Imagine having future generations of descendants trying to parent an immortal god the moment they reach adulthood.
Relax.
Just when I thought life had finally settled into a comfortable routine, the very same God who had helped create my sons found himself in trouble once again. His wife had caught him red-handed, and this time she was gathering several of her relatives to put an end to his existence. To prevent the lynching from taking place, I stepped in and covered for him.
I knew it!
I knew it!
Wait! You! You said you loved me!
I thanked them for trying to introduce women to my two sons and for encouraging them to leave the house and build lives of their own. At first, she could tell I was lying. She could practically smell the deception on me. Yet after thinking it over for a while and remembering the reputation my sons had earned over the years, she reluctantly accepted the explanation. In fact, she ended up feeling guilty for having plotted her husband's death in the first place. In a way, I felt sorry for her. But then again, he had given me the two individuals who loved me more than anyone else on the planet. Covering for him felt like the least I could do. Still, I was slightly offended by how quickly she believed the story. I mean, my sons weren't that hopeless. After they had finally resolved their differences, the god approached me with yet another offer. He wished to grant me a third favor. One of his most recent affairs had resulted in a child.
Any of you remember to change his diaper? Oh, A.
The baby was a demigod, but unlike my sons, he was entirely mortal. The god had no intention of acknowledging him, and before long, the child's mother abandoned him as well. As thanks for helping him once again, he offered the child to me. He admitted that he had never truly loved the boy's mother and had no desire to raise him himself. I accepted without hesitation. I named him Malcolm. This time, however, I wasn't raising a child alone. Leonard and Jay insisted on helping me. The three of us shared the responsibility of raising him together. As Malcolm grew older, my sons taught him countless things about the world, while I stepped in whenever I felt my guidance was needed. Then, almost without realizing it, everything changed. I cannot point to the exact day it happened. One day I simply stopped seeing him as a rambunctious teenager, Instead, I found myself looking at a remarkably gallant young man.
Look at you, growing so fast.
Unlike my two sons before him, Malcolm eventually tried to leave the nest. For a few years, he ventured out into the world, determined to build a life of his own. Eventually, however, he returned. After experiencing everything the world had to offer, he chose to come back home, living with my sons and me, while working nearby so he would not have to pay rent. At least that was how it began. As the years passed, he gradually lost all interest in leaving again. Soon enough, he stopped pretending to search for another place to live and simply accepted our home as his own. Unknown to me, something else had also begun to change. Over time, he stopped looking at me as a father figure. Instead, he began seeing me simply as a man with needs. At first, I noticed very little. Occasionally, he would come into my room late at night and quietly slip into my bed. I thought nothing of it. After all, it was something he had often done while growing up whenever he had needed comfort or simply wanted to be close to me. Looking back, perhaps I should have told him to return to his own room. Perhaps I should have drawn a line before either of us crossed it, but I didn't.
You don't know how long I've waited to do that. I know, me too.
One night, he quietly moved closer, wrapped his arms around me. Then, without warning, he kissed me. It wasn't a kiss driven by lust, it carried something much deeper. Affection, longing, love. For several moments, I simply stared at him in complete disbelief. I was too shocked to say anything. Part of me wanted to stop him. Another part of me couldn't bring myself to push him away.
It feels perfect.
At that point in my life, my own romantic relationships had long since faded into distant memories. My love life had become little more than an empty chapter I believed had already come to an end, at least for now. Perhaps because of that loneliness, perhaps because I knew eventually I would need to settle down with someone, or perhaps because I simply wasn't as strong as I believed myself to be. I gave in to temptation.